Welcome to my channel Rare Old Coin Value, your ultimate destination for rare and valuable coins from around the globe. Here, we explore the hidden history, design secrets, and real value behind every coin, from ancient treasures to modern collectibles. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because every coin has a story, and we're here to tell it. Stay tuned and let's dive into the fascinating world of coins. The 1944 1-cent coin of the United States of America, commonly known as the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny, is one of the most historically important and widely collected American coins of the 20th century because it was minted during the final phase of World War II, a period when the U.S. economy, industry, and even coin production were completely influenced by wartime demands. This coin belongs to the long-running Lincoln Wheat Cent series 1909-1958, which was introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birth anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln, making it the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature a real historical person rather than a symbolic figure like Liberty. The obverse front of the 1944 penny was designed by the famous sculptor Victor David Brenner, featuring a right-facing portrait of Lincoln with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," at the top rim, "Liberty," on the left side, and the year, 1944, on the right. The reverse back features two large wheat ears symbolizing prosperity and national strength, surrounding the inscriptions, 1 cent, United States of America, and at the top center the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. From a metal composition point of view, the 1944 penny is extremely significant because it marks the return to a copper-based alloy after the unusual 1943 steel cent experiment. During 1943, copper was critically needed for military ammunition and war equipment, so pennies were made from zinc-coated steel. However, by 1944, the U.S. Mint switched back to a copper alloy, but not pure copper. Instead, the 1944 pennies were made from recycled copper shell casings recovered from military training fields and factories, giving this coin a powerful symbolic connection to the war effort. Its official composition is approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc, with trace amounts of tin possibly present due to the recycled nature of the metal. The official weight of the coin is 3.11 grams, the diameter is 19.05 millimeters, the thickness is about 1.52 millimeters, and the edge is completely smooth. These technical specifications are identical to most wheat cents from 1909 to 1958, making the 1944 issue physically consistent with the classic American penny standard. The 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny was struck at 3 different U.S. Mint facilities, each identified by a mint mark. Philadelphia, no mint mark, produced the largest number with an enormous mintage of approximately 1,435,400,000 coins, reflecting the massive need for small change during wartime industrial activity. Denver, D Mint Mark, produced around 430,578,000 coins, marked with a small d below the year on the obverse. San Francisco S Mint Mark produced around 282,760,000 coins, marked with a small s below the year. Together, these mintages make the 1944 penny one of the most widely produced U.S. coins in history, meaning that in common circulated condition, it is not rare in terms of quantity. However, condition, errors, and special varieties play a major role in determining value. In terms of historical background, the year 1944 was one of the most dramatic and crucial moments of World War II. The United States was deeply involved in major military operations in both Europe and the Pacific. The famous D-Day invasion of Normandy happened in June 1944, leading to the liberation of Western Europe. American, Factories were operating at full capacity, producing tanks, ships, aircraft, and weapons. Coinage was essential for everyday trade, factory wages, rationing systems, and soldiers' pay. The 1944 penny therefore represents not just spare change but a powerful artifact of a nation at total war, with each copper coin symbolically connected to bullets, artillery shells, and battlefield supply chains. From a numismatic coin collecting perspective, the 1944 wheat penny is generally considered common, but it becomes highly valuable in certain forms. A regular circulated 1944 penny today typically has a modest value, but if the coin is in uncirculated or mint state condition, its value increases significantly. Approximate market values can be summarized as follows. Very worn, good to fine condition. Low value is a collectible but still historically important. Extremely fine to about uncirculated. Moderate collector value. Mint state Mississippi 63 to Mississippi 66 or higher, high value, especially if the coin has strong original red color. Collectors also evaluate pennies based on color designation, brown BN, red brown RB, and full red RD, with full red pennies being the most valuable because they retain their original copper shine. One of the most famous and rare varieties connected to the 1944 penny is the 1944 steel penny error. Because the mint used steel planchettes in 1943, a small number of leftover steel blanks were accidentally used again in 1944 at all three mints. These rare error coins appear silver gray instead of copper and are magnetic. A real 1944 steel penny is one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in existence, often selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on condition and mint mark, with the 1944's steel penny being especially rare. Many fake versions exist, created by coating copper pennies with zinc or altering the date on 1943 steel cents, so professional authentication is absolutely necessary. In everyday life, the 1944 penny played a role in rationed wartime commerce, where items like sugar, gasoline, meat, and rubber were restricted. Pennies were used in factory cafeterias, military bases, public transportation, vending machines, newspapers, postal services, and small household purchases. It was part of the rhythm of daily American life during one of the most intense global conflicts in human history. For many families, these pennies were saved by children in jars and piggy banks as a symbol of patriotism, thrift, and contribution to the war effort through scrap drives and savings bonds. Artistically and symbolically, the wheat ears on the reverse represent agricultural abundance and national stability, reminding citizens that despite war and uncertainty, America's food production and economic backbone remained strong. Lincoln's calm, thoughtful portrait was intended to inspire unity, honesty, and perseverance during troubling times. The motto, "In God We Trust," took on deeper emotional meaning as millions of American families prayed for loved ones overseas. From a global collecting standpoint, the 1944 U.S. penny is widely collected not only in America but also internationally due to the worldwide impact of World War II and the dominance of U.S. currency in global trade afterward. It is commonly found in old collections in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, where U.S. soldiers traveled and spent money during and after the war. Even today, some 1944 pennies continue to appear in circulation, though they are increasingly scarce in everyday use due to age and hoarding by collectors. In summary, the 1944 1-cent United States of America Lincoln Wheat Penny is not just a small copper coin, it is a powerful historical witness to the industrial strength, patriotic spirit, economic resilience, and military struggle of the United States during World War II. While it is common in circulation grade condition, its error versions, mint state examples, and steel varieties make it one of the most exciting and studied pennies in American numismatics. Whether kept as a simple souvenir, part of a childhood collection, or a professionally graded investment coin, the 1944 penny stands as a timeless symbol of sacrifice, unity, and the return of copper from the battlefield back into the hands of the people. Next coin. The 1946 1-cent United States of America, universally known as the 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny, is one of the most symbolically powerful and historically meaningful small coins ever produced by the U.S. Mint because it represents the first full year of American peacetime coinage after the end of World War II, a global conflict that reshaped the entire world, and this penny stands as a copper witness to the transition from total war to reconstruction, economic growth, and global leadership of the United States. This coin belongs to the legendary Lincoln Wheat Cent Series 1909-1958 designed by the famous sculptor Victor David Brenner, whose dignified right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln appears on the obverse with the national motto, "In God We Trust," boldly curved along the top rim, the word, "Liberty," placed to the left of Lincoln's portrait, and the clearly struck date, 1946, on the right side, below which appears, when applicable, the mint marks, D for Denver or S for San Francisco, while coins without a mint mark were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and on the reverse side the classic and beloved 2 wheat ears design frames the inscriptions, 1 cent, and United States of America, with the ancient Latin motto, E pluribus unum, positioned above, symbolizing the unity of the American states emerging stronger after the devastation of war. The metal composition of the 1946 penny is the traditional and restored 95% copper and 5% zinc, making it part of the return to normal metallic standards after the wartime emergency issues of steel cents in 1943 and recycled shell casing bronze in 1944 and 1945, and this restored copper alloy gave the coin a rich reddish-brown color and a solid weight of 3.11 grams, with a standard diameter of 19.05 millimeters, a thickness of approximately 1.52 millimeters, and a smooth plain edge, all of which conform to the long-established technical standards of American bronze cents. The mintage figures for 1946 clearly demonstrate the explosion of post-war economic activity and the massive need for small change in a rapidly expanding consumer economy, with the Philadelphia Mint producing approximately 991,655,000 coins, the Denver Mint producing about 315,690,000 coins, and the San Francisco Mint producing around 198,100,000 coins, resulting in a combined production of well over 1.5 billion pennies, making 1946 one of the most heavily produced wheat cent years and ensuring that this penny entered virtually every American home through wages, shopping, savings, school allowances, newspaper purchases, postage, bus fares, factory canteens, and everyday trade at a time when soldiers were returning home, industries were converting from tanks to cars, and rationing was being lifted. Historically, 1946 marked a moment of profound transformation as the United States emerged as the dominant global economic power. The United Nations was newly established, war industries became household manufacturers, suburbs began to grow, and millions of veterans used the GI Bill for education and housing, and the humble 1946 penny circulated silently through this entire transformation, passing through the hands of factory workers, shopkeepers, farmers, children, soldiers, students, and immigrants, making it not just a monetary object but a living artifact of social reconstruction and national rebirth. Numismatically, the 1946 wheat penny is considered common in terms of quantity, but its value rises sharply depending on condition, color, strike quality, and mint mark, with worn examples in good or fair condition carrying mainly historic interest. fine to extremely fine examples valued higher by collectors, and uncirculated mint state MS coins, especially those graded Mississippi 65 or higher with full red road original copper luster, commanding strong premiums because original red color is rare after nearly 8 decades of oxidation and handling, while red-brown RB and brown BN coins represent intermediate and fully toned surfaces respectively. Among collectors, the 1946 penny is also studied for die varieties, minor double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and planchette errors, though none rival the legendary status of the 1943 or 1944 steel errors. Yet high-grade error coins from 1946 can still achieve notable auction prices due to collector demand for post-war transitional issues. Culturally and emotionally, the 1946 penny symbolizes hope after devastation, as it was produced in a world newly free from global war, when families reunited, industries converted back to peace, and optimism replaced fear, and the copper used to strike this coin now went not into bullets or artillery but into education, commerce, home building, and daily civilian life. From the perspective of long-term survivability, millions of 1946 pennies were saved by children in jars and piggy banks during the baby boom era, which followed just a few years later, making this coin one of the nostalgic anchors of mid-20th century American childhood memory. Internationally, the 1946 Lincoln cent also traveled across oceans through military bases, foreign trade, tourism, and post-war aid programs, and today it can be found in collections throughout Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East as a reflection of America's post-war global presence. In modern collecting, the 1946 wheat penny remains a key educational coin for beginners, a foundational date in Lincoln cent albums, and a symbolic bridge between wartime and modern American coinage, carrying deep meaning far beyond its 1-cent denomination. And as inflation has erased the purchasing power of a single cent, this coin now serves less as currency and more as a miniature bronze history book, encapsulating within its small size the story of recovery, peace, industrial strength, democratic stability, and the quiet resilience of a nation rebuilding itself after the greatest war mankind has ever known. The 1951 1-cent coin of the United States of America, widely known as the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny, represents a remarkable chapter in American economic, social, and numismatic history because it was produced during the early years of the Cold War era, a time when the United States had firmly emerged as the world's most powerful industrial and financial nation following World War II, yet at the same time faced new ideological, military, and global challenges. And this humble copper coin circulated through a society that was rapidly transforming through technological expansion, suburban development, industrial growth, and the beginning of modern consumer culture. This penny belongs to the classic and highly respected Lincoln Wheat Cent Series 1909-1958, designed by the celebrated artist Victor David Brenner, whose dignified and thoughtful right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln dominates the obverse, surrounded by the deeply meaningful inscriptions, "In God We Trust," along the top rim, "Liberty," to the left of Lincoln's portrait, and the mint date, 1951, to the right, with the presence of a D mint mark below the date indicating production at the Denver Mint, and S mint mark indicating the San Francisco Mint, and the absence of a mint mark indicating the Philadelphia Mint, while the reverse displays the iconic 2 wheat ears symbolizing national prosperity, agricultural strength, and economic abundance, framing the bold inscriptions, 1 cent, and United States of America, with the historic motto, E pluribus unum, proudly placed above, reinforcing the theme of unity and national identity in a world now divided by ideological conflict. From a technical and metallurgical standpoint, the 1951 penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, restoring the long-standing bronze standard that had been disrupted only briefly during World War II. And this traditional alloy gives the coin its warm reddish-brown hue, with an official weight of 3.11 grams, a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, a thickness of approximately 1.52 millimeters, and a smooth plain edge, making it fully consistent with the physical standards followed by U.S. cents for nearly half a century. The mintage figures of the 1951 wheat penny are enormous, reflecting the massive demand for small change during the peak of America's post-war economic boom, with the Philadelphia Mint producing approximately 726,006,000 coins, the Denver Mint producing about 625,355,000 coins, and the San Francisco Mint producing around 136,010,000 coins, resulting in a total output of nearly 1.5 billion pennies, a staggering figure that ensured this coin reached every corner of American life, from bustling city markets and suburban grocery stores to rural farms, school lunch counters, streetcar fairs, candy shops, gas stations, factory wages, and newspaper stands, meaning that nearly every American child, worker, and household in the early 1950s handled this coin regularly. Historically, the year 1951 was marked by the Korean War, the rapid expansion of U.S. military influence abroad, the acceleration of the arms race, and the growing rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. While at home American families were buying televisions, refrigerators, and automobiles in record numbers, suburbs were rapidly expanding, and the middle class was growing at an unprecedented pace. And within this complex environment of geopolitical tension and domestic prosperity, the 1951 penny quietly served as a tool of everyday commerce, symbolizing both economic stability and the enduring practicality of small denomination coinage in a modernizing world. Numismatically, the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny is generally classified as a common date coin due to its massive mintage, but its true value and desirability rise significantly depending on condition, surface color, strike sharpness, and mint mark, with heavily worn examples primarily valued for their historical character, moderately worn fine to extremely fine specimens enjoying stronger collector demand, and sharply struck uncirculated mint state coins, particularly those graded Mississippi 65 or higher and retaining full original red road luster, commanding premium prices because very few coins survive with their bright original copper color after more than 70 years of oxidation and handling, while coins designated red-brown (RB) or brown (BN) reflect progressive stages of toning and surface aging. The 1951 penny is also studied closely by specialists for repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, clipped planchettes, and minor double dies. And while none of these varieties reach the legendary fame of earlier rare errors, certain authenticated high-grade error examples can still fetch impressive sums in the collector market. Culturally, the 1951 penny is strongly associated with the baby boom generation, as millions of children during the 1950s saved these coins in piggy banks, glass jars, and cardboard albums, using them for candy, comic books, ice cream, and school supplies, making the coin deeply linked to memory, nostalgia, and the everyday innocence of post-war American childhood. On an international scale, the 1951 U.S. cent also traveled beyond American borders through overseas military bases, Cold War deployments, diplomatic missions, foreign aid programs, trade routes, and tourism, and today it can still be found in collections across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East as a lasting symbol of mid-20th century American economic reach and cultural influence. Within the history of the Lincoln Wheat series, the 1951 issue stands close to the final decade of wheat reverse production, as the design would be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959, meaning this coin belongs to the last generation of traditional wheat pennies, connecting early 20th century America with the modern industrial age. In modern times, As inflation has drastically reduced the real purchasing power of 1 cent, the 1951 penny has shifted from being a practical unit of currency to a historical artifact, valued for its craftsmanship, symbolism, and its direct connection to a decisive period in world history when the United States stood at the center of global economic growth and political power, and thus the 1951 1-cent United States of America ultimately represents far more than its face value, standing instead as a small copper time capsule that preserves within its surface the story of Cold War tensions, suburban expansion, industrial dominance, childhood memory, global influence, and the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln on American coinage.